Hi friends, today our topic is basal ganglia. The word basal ganglia consists of two words, basal and ganglia. Basal refers to that which is found at the base or bottom of the brain, and the word ganglia actually means collection of neuronal cell bodies outside the central nervous system, but here basal ganglia is within the central nervous system. Hence, the use of the word ganglia here actually is a misnomer. The word basal ganglia is rather to be called basal nuclei. The term ganglion is used to describe a cluster of neurons, but it's typically only used to refer to neurons in peripheral nervous system. The basal ganglia are a group of gray matter nuclei in deep aspects of the brain that is interconnected with cerebral cortex, thalami and brainstem. The basal ganglia or basal nuclei are a group of subcortical structures found deep within the white matter of the brain. They form a part of extrapyramidal motor system and work in tandem with pyramidal and limbic systems. The structures which are found in basal ganglia are mainly five pairs of nuclei. They are caudate nucleus, putamen, globus pallidus, subthalamic nucleus and substantia nigra. Putamen and globus pallidus are collectively called lentiform nucleus. Caudate nucleus and lentiform nucleus are together called corpus striatum. Caudate nucleus and putamen are together called neostriatum. And the segments of the globus pallidus internus and globus pallidus externus, together called paleostriatum. Caudate nucleus, and globus pallidus come under telencephalon. Thalamus and subthalamus come under diencephalon, and substantia nigra of midbrain comes under mesencephalon. In this diagram, as we observe the center of the diagram from medial to lateral, at the center we can actually see two oval shaped structures shown in blue color. They are called thalami, and a C shaped structure is sitting on the thalami. It is called caudate nucleus, and this C shaped structure is looking like a mouse, as if it is eating a bread piece, which is conical in shape, that is shown in pink color, that is called lentiform nucleus. And between the thalami and lentiform nucleus, there are a group of neuronal fibers running through, which are collectively called internal capsule. Hence, internal capsule is medial to lentiform nucleus and external capsule is lateral to lentiform nucleus. After the external capsule, structure called claustrum is seen, and lateral to claustrum we can see extreme capsule. Caudate nucleus, it is an elongated C-shaped nucleus. It lies anterior to thalamus and just lateral to lateral ventricles. It is medial to the internal capsule. It consists of three parts: head, body and tail. Head forms the lateral wall of the lateral ventricle. Tail forms the roof of inferior horn of lateral ventricle, and it arches over ventral surface of thalamus and enters temporal lobe, and then it terminates by connecting with amygdala. Here amygdala is shown as a circular structure at the tail of caudate nucleus. The functions of caudate nucleus are: it contributes to body and limb posture and speed and accuracy of movements. Besides motor control, caudate nucleus is involved in many tasks such as memory, goal pursuit, learning, language processing, emotions, etc. Lentiform nucleus. It consists of two parts, putamen and globus pallidus. Putamen is a round structure situated at the base of forebrain. It is most lateral part of the basal ganglia on axial section of the brain as seen before. It lies laterally to globus pallidus and medially to external capsule covering it like a shell, both rostrally and caudally. It is encircled by caudate nucleus. It is separated from caudate nucleus by internal capsule. Putamen and globus pallidus are separated by a thin layer of white matter called medial medullary lamina. It also regulates motor functions. It employs dopamine to perform its functions. The globus pallidus externus and the globus pallidus internus also play essential roles in modulation of motor plans. Corpus striatum includes caudate nucleus and lentiform nucleus. Neostriatum includes caudate nucleus and putamen. Paleostriatum includes globus pallidus externa and globus pallidus interna. It can be shown like this. Caudate nucleus and lentiform nucleus come under corpus striatum. And neostriatum includes caudate nucleus and putamen. Paleostriatum includes globus pallidus externus and globus pallidus internus. The separate nuclei of basal ganglia all have extensive roles of their own in the brain, and they are also interconnected with one another to form a network that is thought to be involved in a variety of cognitive, emotional, and movement related functions. The basal ganglia are best known for their role in movement. All the movements which we start doing from morning to evening, all these are already programmed in basal ganglia, and these are initiated only with the help of basal ganglia. The basal ganglia probably have multiple movement related functions ranging from choosing actions that are likely to lead to positive consequences to avoiding things that might be aversive. But the basal ganglia are most often linked to the initiation and execution of movements. One popular hypothesis suggests that the basal ganglia act to facilitate desired movements and inhibit the unwanted movements. All the things which we intend to do, which we don't intend to do, are programmed by basal ganglia. Subthalamic nucleus lies at junction of diencephalon and midbrain. It is ventral to thalamus. Anteriorly, it is bordered by substantia nigra and medially by internal capsule. Subthalamic nucleus is close to pallidothalamic fibers. It is considered as pacemaker of basal ganglia. Substantia nigra. It is a small motor nucleus which is shown in brown color here in the diagram. It is present within the anterior part of the midbrain, and it consists of two parts. These two parts have different connections and different functions. The names of the two parts of substantia nigra are pars compacta and pars reticulata. Pars compacta comprises the dorsal portion of substantia nigra. It consists of numerous closely packed melanin-filled neurons that give substantia nigra its distinctive dark color. The dopamine producing neurons are thought to found in pars compacta region, and pars reticulata lies ventral to pars compacta, and it is larger than pars compacta but contains fewer cells than it. In this figure we can see two types of neuronal fibers. One is pink in color and one is blue in color. The pink one is called corticospinal fibers because it is traveling from cortex down to medulla, and then it is crossing in the medulla and then reaching the spinal cord. There it is stimulating the lower motor neuron which in turn stimulating the muscles at neuromuscular junction. Hence it is called corticospinal fiber. Then the blue one, which is called corticonuclear fiber. It starts from cortex and it goes to the motor nuclei present in the brainstem. Hence it is called as corticonuclear fiber. From the brainstem, it fires the lower motor neuron and which further fires the muscles at neuromuscular junction. Here we can observe the cell bodies of lower motor neurons are present in brainstem and spinal cord. Motor plants which we intend to do are actually stored in basal ganglia and cerebellum. This process of corticospinal fibers and corticonuclear fibers of transmitting the signals doesn't occur directly from cortex to lower motor neuron. If we intend to have a cup of tea and we are having a cup of tea, to have a cup of tea, we have to take the cup from the table, sip the tea, and then we have to keep it back. This whole motor activity idea is already programmed and stored in basal ganglia. So, corticospinal fibers and corticonuclear fibers don't go directly from cortex to spinal cord and brainstem. They first take the permission of basal ganglia, which is situated in the cerebral hemispheres. The basal ganglia will plan and initiate the movement. It processes and sends the signals back to thalamus, and thalamus in turn sends the signals to these two fibers. That means the basal ganglia is transmitting the information to corticospinal fibers and corticonuclear fibers via thalamus. Then the fibers from corticospinal and corticonuclear will reach the muscles for the movement. If you think of a movement, basal ganglia starts firing even before the movement started. So, when you get an idea to do a movement, consultation or permission is to be taken with basal ganglia. Then only final orders are given to corticospinal fibers and corticonuclear fibers to initiate the movement. The corticospinal fibers and corticonuclear fibers come from four areas of cortex. The motor cortex actually consists of four areas. Those are primary motor area, primary somatosensory area, premotor area, and supplementary motor area. All these four are shown in the figure with green, orange, blue colors, and the prefrontal cortex is shown with brown color. First idea of movement comes from prefrontal cortex shown in brown color. Suppose if you get an idea to take a pencil and write, this idea is already programmed in basal ganglia and you need the execution of that idea. Here idea which you have got is in prefrontal cortex. Then how it should execute? First it should go to the premotor area and supplementary motor area. Then these two areas should take the permission of basal ganglia, which in turn sends the signals to all these four areas collectively: premotor area, supplementary motor area, primary motor area, and somatosensory area via thalamus. That is, thalamus sends the signals from basal ganglia to all these four motor areas. Then corticospinal fibers or corticonuclear fibers then start coming down from the cortex and then reach the lower motor neurons, which then fire the muscles at neuromuscular junction and then initiate the movement. Let's observe this circuit. When you think of an idea to start motor activity, fibers start coming from the cortex down to the neostriatum or striatum. Striatum here means putamen and caudate nucleus. The fibers which are coming from the cortex to the striatum are known as corticostriatal fibers, and these are stimulating the next fibers which are situated in the striatum. The fibers which start from striatum to and end to globus pallidus are known as striatopallidal fibers. These in turn stimulate the next successive fibers which start from globus pallidus to thalamus, and these are known as pallidothalamic fibers. The fibers which start from thalamus and end in cortex are known as thalamocortical fibers. Here we have to remember the two fibers, corticostriatal fibers and thalamocortical fibers, are glutaminergic neurons. That means they release the neuron transmitter named glutamate, which is stimulatory. That means it stimulates the successive neurons by cation influx. Then the two fibers, striatopallidal fibers and pallidothalamic fibers, are known as GABAergic neuronal fibers. That means these two fibers release the neuron transmitter GABA and substance P. GABA means gamma aminobutyric acid, and it is an inhibitory neuron transmitter. So it inhibits the successive neuron when it releases the GABA. What happens at rest? When we are at rest, when we are not performing any action, then the motor cortex should also be in resting conditions. When we are at rest, globus pallidus internus is very active and it is actively firing. When it is actively firing, it is releasing GABA on thalamic nuclei. As GABA is inhibitory, it inhibits the thalamocortical fibers. So these thalamocortical fibers which are inhibited can't stimulate the upper motor neurons present in the cortex. As upper motor neurons are not stimulated, they can't fire the lower motor neurons, which cannot innervate the muscles. Hence, no movement will be there at resting condition. This is the activity which is going when we are at rest. Cortex is also inactive because thalamocortical fibers going to the cortex are inhibited. Direct pathway. Here the fibers which are coming from the cortex to the striatum known as corticostriatal fibers, as these are glutaminergic, they release glutamate onto the striatopallidal fibers. As glutamate is a stimulatory neuron transmitter, it initiates the calcium influx when it binds to the cell bodies of the striatopallidal fibers, and the striatopallidal fibers get activated or stimulated. As these are activated and as these are GABAergic fibers, they release more GABA onto the next fiber, that is pallidothalamic fiber. As more GABA is released on these fibers get inhibited. As GABA is inhibitory, it inhibits the fibers. Now the pallidothalamic fiber is inhibited. Hence, it also releases less GABA because these neurons are also GABAergic neurons. As these are less stimulated, they release less GABA onto the next thalamocortical fibers. As less GABA is released on the cell bodies of thalamic nuclei, less inhibition will be there and hence they are not inhibited. So it means they are active and they actively fire towards the cortex where they stimulate the upper motor neurons, and the upper motor neurons travel down and stimulate the lower motor neurons, which finally innervates the muscle and movement occurs. There is one more pathway, that is indirect pathway. Why we need two pathways? Suppose if we want to close our hand, first thing is flexor should contract and second thing is extensors should relax. Here muscles whose action is required are to be stimulated and muscles whose action is not required are to be adjusted. For example, while we are writing with a pen, the hand should be stimulated to hold the pen and write. And the other thing is whole of the arm from shoulder is to be adjusted, that is the posture of the arm from the shoulder is to be adjusted in proper writing function. Basal ganglia should have two pathways, that is stimulatory and the other is inhibitory. Stimulatory pathway will stimulate the muscle group and the inhibitory pathway will also inhibit the other muscle group. That means agonist should be stimulated and antagonist should be inhibited while performing an action. Here in this image, when we are planning for a movement, corticostriatal fibers come to the neostriatum in the same way as seen in direct pathway. These cortical fibers release glutamate on the successive fiber. Here we have to observe in the direct pathway the striatopallidal neurons go to globus pallidus internus, but here in indirect pathway the fibers only go to globus pallidus externus, they don't extend to globus pallidus internus. From there the next neuron starts and it goes to the subthalamus. Here we have to observe that subthalamus is involved in indirect pathway, which is not seen in direct pathway. From subthalamus, one more neuron starts and that is glutaminergic neuron and it ends in globus pallidus. Now we have seen there is a loop formed which is completely different from direct pathway. From here the origin of neuronal fibers is same as of direct pathway, that is pallidothalamic fibers are seen and thalamocortical fibers are seen. Here as we observe the function of fibers, The first fiber, that is corticostriatal fiber, is releasing glutamate onto the pallidal fiber. As glutamate is stimulatory, it stimulates the pallidal fiber, and as it is stimulated and as it is GABAergic, it releases more GABA onto the next fiber. The next fiber, under the influence of more GABA, gets inhibited, and hence its action will be less. It is also GABAergic, so it under the inhibition releases less GABA onto the cell bodies of successive neurons. As less GABA is released onto the successive neurons, these neurons get less inhibition, that means they are more active. These are glutaminergic neurons, so they release glutamate. As glutamate is released, as it is stimulatory neuron transmitter, the successive neuron, that is pallidothalamic neuron, gets stimulated. As it gets stimulated and as it is GABAergic neuron, it releases more GABA onto the successive neuron, that is thalamocortical neuron. As more GABA is released here, more inhibition will be there, and thalamocortical neuron is inhibited, so it can't fight the upper motor neurons in the cortex. So upper motor neurons will also can't stimulate the lower motor neurons, which further can't stimulate the muscles for the movement. Hence, no movement is seen in indirect pathway, as the thalamocortical fibers are inhibited. There is no information to the upper motor neurons to initiate the movement. Dopamine effect on direct and indirect pathway. The dopamine is found in pars compacta of substantia nigra. What is the role of dopaminergic neurons of substantia nigra in midbrain, which is a derivative of mesencephalon? It does some modulation. Actually, the substantia nigra consists of two parts, pars compacta and pars reticulata. The fibers which are coming from substantia nigra to the D1 D2 receptors, which are found on direct and indirect pathways, are called nigrostriatal fibers. Nigra means substantia nigra and striata means it is going to the striatum. These are known as dopaminergic nerve fibers also. These nigrostriatal fibers influence both direct and indirect pathway. They release dopamine on both the pathways, and main function of dopaminergic neurons is to facilitate the movement. As we know before, direct pathway is excitatory pathway and indirect pathway is inhibitory pathway. Dopamine, as it should facilitate the movement, it will facilitate the movement via direct pathway and it will also facilitate the movement via indirect pathway. Direct pathway is already excitatory, so dopamine activates it, but indirect pathway is inhibitory. It doesn't take any role in movement, so dopamine inhibits the inhibitory activity of indirect pathway, that is, it reverses the action of inhibitory pathway to produce the movements. What the dopaminergic nerve fibers do here is they release dopamine on D1 receptors of direct pathway and D2 receptors of indirect pathway. Direct pathway is same as seen before. So here we study only indirect pathway. The dopaminergic neurons release dopamine on D2 receptors, and here it is inhibitory. Previously we have seen in indirect pathway glutamate is coming and it is activating these fibers, that is striatopalliidal fibers. Here it is inhibitory. Though glutamate is coming and released onto these fibers, dopamine action will be dominant, so dopamine action will be there and its action is inhibitory on the indirect pathway. So this inhibits the neurons. As these neurons are inhibited and as these neurons are GABAergic, they release less GABA onto the successive neurons. As less GABA is released, less inhibition will be there, so the nerve fibers are activated. As these are activated and as these are GABAergic, they release more GABA onto the successive neurons at the subthalamic region. As more GABA is released in this region, more inhibition will be there, and hence the subthalamopalliidal neurons are less active, and these are glutaminergic neurons, so these release glutamate, and the glutamate main function is stimulatory, so it stimulates the next neuron, that is pallidothalamic neuron. But the stimulation will be less as less glutamate is released here. As it is less stimulated, it releases less GABA onto the thalamic nuclei. As less GABA is released onto the thalamic nuclei, the thalamocortical fibers are less inhibited. That means they are active and they actively fire towards the cortex and sends the signals to upper motor neurons, which then fire the lower motor neurons, which eventually innervate the muscles and at neuromuscular junction and produce the movement. Thus, dopamine facilitated the movement here in indirect pathway also. The main function of dopamine is to facilitate the movement through direct pathway and also through indirect pathway. Direct pathway turns up the motor activity, indirect pathway turns down the motor activity, and this action of indirect pathway to turn down the motor activity is reversed. That is, the motor activity is turned up by indirect pathway under the influence of dopamine. Damage to the basal ganglia cells may cause problems like controlling speech, movement and posture. This combination of symptoms is called Parkinsonism. A person with basal ganglia dysfunction may have difficulty in starting, stooping or sustaining the movement. Though motor disorders are the most common associated with basal ganglia, recent research shows that basal ganglia disorders can lead to other dysfunctions also, such as OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder, and Tourette syndrome. Thank you. For more videos, please subscribe to my channel, friends.